go to sleep. It's going to help you out when you wake up. It's going to help you in all those moments in between to really stay more focused. You know, when I find if I don't pray at the beginning of the day, my day starts out pretty loudly, like it goes pretty bad, because my focus is wrong. Like I'm running around doing things my own way. I'm caring about things in my own power, my own strength, and I haven't spent time with God in order to get His strength. And so I would encourage you, make it a habit. So every day, start out, just spend some time focusing on Christ. Hey, God, I love you. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for sending your Son to die for me. You know, just spend some time focusing on Him and allowing Him to come and change you. Set your thoughts on Him. Put Him at the center of your life. There's one of the reasons that you need to do this is because as you begin to do it, you're going to begin to see things from His perspective. And that's huge. Because we don't see things the way that God sees them. Like, I love the illustration from theology class about the parade. It's like imagine a parade, and when you're in the parade, you're like a band member, and you see the guy in front of you, right? And you're like playing the trumpet, and you see the trumpet player in front of you. But you don't see Santa Claus like 2 miles back behind you, right? But the guy up in the helicopter, in the news copter, he's up there, he sees the whole parade. He sees Santa Claus down here, he sees you, and marching out of step down here. He sees the whole picture. And that's the way it is in life. We don't see the whole picture. God sees the whole picture, and we're just like, we just see right in front of us. And we have to put Him at the center and trust in Him so that we can see from His perspective in a certain sense. No one will never fully understand and see everything the way that He does, but He can help us out, and we can see the problems that we face from a different angle. Because sometimes the problems that we face aren't really that big of a deal. And we make them out to be bigger than they are. And some things that we don't make out to be a big deal really are a big deal. But it takes time to spend time with God and allow Him to change your mindset, to set your mind on Him so that you can see things from His perspective. One of the things that that's going to help with is in areas where we're struggling with temptation or something. One of the stories in Greek mythology, some of you may know about it, is the story of the sirens. And the sirens, they lived on these islands. What they would do is, as ships would pass by, they would sing this song and make music, and the singing was so pretty that the sailors would try and search for the source of that, and they would get bashed up on the rocks, and the ships would be ruined, and they would lose their lives, or it would just be a tragic deal. And there were 2 people that managed to get past these sirens. Nobody that goes past these islands gets past them because they're singing so beautiful that sailors are so distracted and pulled away and swayed away. But 2 people got past it. One of them was Odysseus, if you guys remember Homer and the Iliad and the Odyssey and all of that. So Odysseus gets past them, but he gets past them. He takes his crew, and he takes wax and he pours it into their ears. So it stops up their ears. And then he ties himself, he has the crew tie him to the mast of the ship. And he screams at the top of his lungs so that as they're passing by these islands, that they can't hear the sirens and be pulled off and distracted. So he just forces his group to not be able to hear and forces himself to stay put so they're not distracted. Another guy, Jason was his name, he gets past them, but he does something different. He hires a musician. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a flute player. And the flute player had some sort of magical ability with the flute. And when he played, as they came past the island where the sirens were, he began to play. And his playing was so beautiful that the sirens actually, they say, stopped singing and began listening. And the sailors weren't distracted by the sirens. They weren't pulled away because they were listening to the sound of this guy playing flute. And the point I want to make with that is this, that sometimes when temptation comes, we want to be veered away. We want to go after it. And we have a couple options as to how to resist it. One is the one we try most often, I think, is that we try to just tie ourselves down, grit our teeth, and just say, I'm going to make it. And more times than not, if we're honest with ourselves, we don't make it when we do that. I mean, there are moments when we do. I mean, let's be honest, there are moments when we make it, but there are other times when it just overwhelms us and we just give into it. But then there's another option, and that is this, and I think that's what Paul's trying to get across here, is that when we set our minds on Christ, when we focus on Him, and we allow His truth and His love to fill our lives, the temptations don't look so good anymore. Just like that flute player began playing, and his music was so much more powerful than the songs of the sirens. and they weren't pulled away because they were so captivated by that. I think that's what Paul's trying to get across to us here is we'll set our minds on Christ and allow Him to captivate our lives. If He'll be the center of our lives, that His goodness and His love and His beauty will so captivate us that sin and the things that we struggle with no longer look so good anymore. And we won't be so pulled away. And I think that, again, that by setting Christ at the center of our lives and allowing ourselves to think on Him and to set our minds on things above and not on the things of this world, that's what we begin to do. Because the best way to combat a lie is with the truth. The best way to combat a lie is with the truth. And that's what temptation is. It's a lie. It says, give into this now and enjoy it and there'll be no consequences to it. That's a lie. Well, the best way to combat that is with the truth of God's Word that says, hey, you know what? And I think that if we really thought about it, we'd realize we're not giving up anything. We're actually gaining a whole lot. Just one more quick story that I read yesterday. It's a book that I've read through before. I was reading through it again, just kind of thumbing through it. And there's a story about C.S. Lewis writes it, I believe, about this man who had this lizard that was kind of a temptation to him. It was I believe it was actually lust. And so it's standing on his shoulder, and it's just this ugly, nasty lizard. And this angel comes to him and says, "I'll kill it if you want me to." And he's torn between. He kind of wants him to kill it, but he doesn't want him to kill it. He's like, yeah, I don't know. So the angel comes and offers him and says he'll kill it, but the guy is afraid that if he kills it, that he's going to lose part of himself. That he's become so attached to this ugly, nasty lizard on the side of his shoulder that he's afraid that if the angel kills it, that he's going to lose part of himself. Well, finally he gives the angel permission and says, go ahead, kill it. Well, he kills it, and the man, rather than dying, actually becomes more realistic. Like before, he was just this ghostly figure. But he actually comes fully alive, and the lizard, instead of being this nasty, ugly lizard, actually becomes this gorgeous white horse that he's able to just ride off into the sunset with. So that's the picture, is that so often we're holding on to things that we think are giving us life, and we think that if we get rid of them, that they're going to hurt us. But if we'll set our minds on Christ, allow Him to change us, we're not really losing anything. Make sense? All right, next one. Number 2, you have to take off your dirty clothes. Take off your dirty clothes. Paul says next in verse 5 through 11 here, put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, the wrath of God is coming. You used to walk in these ways in the life you once lived, but now you must rid yourselves of all such things as these: anger, rage,